So this is our first Q&A video. We're very excited. Bobby is now working with me full time, so we're going to talk about that. We got some questions from you all for him, which I am so excited to ask him and hear how he's feeling, because I think everyone knows how excited I am. Very, very excited to have Bobby working with me. This has been a dream of ours for so long. And yeah, trying to be cool about it and not too excited all the time, because it's a little too much. So let's get right into it. I'm going to ask him some questions that you all asked, and yeah, then we'll get to the dog training stuff. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Someone asked, how does Bobby like work so far?
So this is kind of like my first week, I guess, full time with Bethany. It's been a little bit of a transition. I think I'm still kind of like weaning off like my previous job, but it's kind of like trying to figure out the rhythm, because she already has the rhythm. I'm used to like stringing an entire 8 hours like together in like one go, but it's like more of like her like creative process is a little bit more like ebbs and flows through the day. So it's been a little bit of a change into that, but parts that I really like about it is kind of like also the times to like focus like on other projects, like working out a little bit more, taking times to slow down and hang out with our dogs, or like even just like having like our coffee dates or lunch dates. I've been really appreciating.
Oh, and you've been getting into cooking.
Yes, I like how it's like now I have like time to like work on other like passions, like cooking. It's like I start getting excited at like around 4:30 to like come up with like an idea and then make it happen. It's usually
you have more
it's
like mental space for it. I feel
yeah,
like.
before it's like I'd leave work and like I'd be mentally like exhausted, and it's like I don't want to decide like what I'm cooking. I don't want to like figure out all the steps or anything. But now it's like, now that I'm not mentally tired, I love like trying to like figure out like little things about the recipes and the sauces and all that. So it's been fun.
Oh, I really want him to get obsessed with sauces, because sauces make every meal so exciting. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get into a dog question then.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to bounce back and forth between different questions.
Because I know like I'm awesome and everybody wants to know about me, but I think we all really know you're all here for Bethany and her wisdoms.
The combo is pretty magical.
Okay. So one of the questions is how tight should like the e-collar be? Hers tends to like slide out of place.
So one thing that's really helpful with this is getting a bungee e-collar. Oh, you probably put it away. Well, so the bungee collar has like, it looks like a hair tie in it. And what that does is it expands with the neck, so that if you have inconsistent fit, I found that that's really helpful. We use that with our dogs. I actually wasn't using it as much. I would just use the normal collar, or at least one with a snap, because my job is to help make owners' lives as easy as possible, and that helps. But that kind of a collar is nice for the inconsistent fit, because you can have it a little too tight or a little too loose, and it still kind of compensates for that with the bungee, the hair tie thing. So, well, we could put a link in the description, but that is what I would recommend, because tighter is better than looser, but that tends to make owners feel a little bit more okay with it being a bit tighter.
Well, that's one thing I'm gonna have to learn, is how to put a link in the description. Jeez.
Just link, copy and paste, I don't know.
Okay.
Bobby is the tech of everything now, so now I'm feeling even more spoiled than I felt before, and I'm like, oh, Bobby will figure it out.
Well, I think that's a good like lead into like one of the questions is.
Okay.
Because one of the questions was, did Bobby walk training dogs with you before becoming a dog trainer? And I think that kind of like leads into one of the things is I'm not going to be a dog trainer. I'm going to handle a lot more of the business side of things. Not saying I'm not going to help out. I've always kind of like in the background, like help walk dogs, take them potty, kind of like been like the informal like owner, be like, where I'm not like I'm just kind of like walking a dog and you're like, oh, this is probably what the owner would struggle with. Like I'm going to be kind of like the test dummy kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's always just been me, but Bobby has helped so much. Like he'll help take dogs out in the morning and let me sleep in, or help on the weekends. We like to go for walks together with training dogs. So he'll still be doing stuff like that, but now he's helping with more of the tech side of things, and he's really great with the dogs because we have 4 and 2 are, you know, I wouldn't say a hot mess, but we've had to do a lot of work with them. But yeah, he's not going to be training the dogs. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, drinking LaCroix, when you put it in a wine glass, it feels extra fancy. Okay.
All right. So the next question is, how do you deal with frustration when it comes to training?
Oh, so I was talking, or I asked the person who asked this if they meant, I wasn't sure, the dog, because some dogs get frustrated, or the owner, and she said the handler. So for me, it's really good to be aware of how I'm feeling when I'm working with a dog. Some dogs are much more challenging than others, and working with dogs, it's just really taught me to slow down and just, like I said, become very aware of how I'm feeling. If I ever feel like I'm getting frustrated, or so this could happen if I go into a session and I have a goal and the dog is not ready for that goal, or we end up working on something else, kind of switching, ebbing and flowing with what we're going to work on, taking a break. I've gotten really good at being intuitive about that and not feeling like I have to do certain things. So if I ever feel like I'm getting frustrated, it won't help the dog. So I just take a break. I step back. And this is just where it's really important to be aware of how you're feeling. Also, if I'm getting hungry, I stop and I take a break because that can lead to frustration. So yeah, just being in tune with yourself.
Like, how long does your like sessions like typically last? Do you like go for like hours, or?
No. So I usually set out to do, I set a timer for 10 minutes just so I'm aware of how long I've been working on something. And then depending on the dog, because I think a lot of times people think that you need to work with a dog for an hour to get results. And I found that smaller increments of time, excuse me, bubbly water, it can lead to a dog that gets too tired. They're not like into it, or both the handler and the dog, unless you're out doing an outing. Like if I have dogs in the van and I'm doing like long line work, it's usually much more fun. So it might be longer and I don't really time it. But for active sessions inside, I start with 10 minutes if it's going really well. Or if I feel like the dog needs a little bit more work, I will keep going, maybe set the timer for another 10 minutes, because I like to be aware of how long I'm doing it. Otherwise, I could be doing it for 45 minutes and not know, oh my gosh, I've worked on it this long. So yeah, usually that, and then I'll follow up with place time, almost always with active sessions. So yeah. Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Bobby, so people who know me know I would not have, well, I guess I would have written them down. I don't like to plan things. This is where he's so awesome and we work so well. He likes to plan this stuff out, where I would just kind of, I was going to say free ball. No, what's the word? Just like.
I just want it to be natural.
Yeah, just organic, not planned. But anyway, okay, I wrote them down. Bobby, what was your turning point for quitting your job and starting with Bethany?
I wouldn't say it's like it was one thing. It's kind of like a bunch of like small like little things. Like Bethany's put out like a lot, like we haven't had kids. You haven't seen them like running around or anything, and it was one of the things that like making the decision of like helping with the business side. Like Bethany's business has been really like taking off, and she has a lot of these big ideas, but she was like walking dog training like just one person, and she has like so many ideas, and there's only so much that she can get done in a day. And so we were kind of like thinking like the next way to take the business to like the next step was she needed help, and a lot of the stuff that she needed help in with was stuff that I'm really good in. Like I love like tech side of things. Like I love like figuring out cameras and like microphones, like which one's best suited and getting things set up. Anything that's like spreadsheets, like keeping track of like income or expenses. Like I love spreadsheets. Our joke is like I'm spreadsheets and she's rainbows and unicorns kind of thing. It's so, and then also like with my job side of things, like I was really like carrying it home a lot with me, where it's like I'd be like thinking, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd like think about work for like an hour or two, and then wake up, I'd go for a run, and during the run I'd think about like work, and then I'd go to work and think about work, and then I'd come home and have dinner and start doing the dishes, and I'd think about work, and I just find myself be a little obsessive about work. So it's like I just kind of like saw this as an opportunity to kind of like work on the family business and maybe also work on myself and how I handle stress. So I'm having fun with that.
So exciting. Okay.
Let's see. Next question. When moving place into the real world, is it down?
Yes. So most people aren't going to have because place is a target, it's a spot. So if you're going out to a restaurant or something, I like to think of the down command as like the traveling place command. You can take it with you anywhere. So yes, that is what I would use as the down command. But really, the more that you practice place in your home and ask for a down, and there's a question that's kind of related to this, so I'm excited to talk about it, but the more you work on place and ask your dog to like say, okay, so you say place, down. I love to get dogs in this pattern as soon as possible. In the beginning, dogs don't know down that well, but the more you do it, and it's just habit, the easier it is to ask for down out in public. Down is actually the most challenging command I find with dogs I work with, but also the most rewarding, so yes.
Oh, did you want to kind of like lead into that other question that's on the place?
Do you have it?
Yeah. Okay. When teaching place, why not ask to lay down right in the beginning? Is it so the dog will relax on his own?
So I like, when I'm first working with a dog, like right now I have a Dalmatian named Milo, and I was sharing in my stories yesterday, and you can see this under his highlight, Milo, where when you're first working on place, a dog does not want to lay down. This is all very new to them. Usually they'll just sit for a while, and I like to wait until they lay down on their own initially. So if I'm working with a dog, this usually happens within the first couple of days when you just kind of wait it out. So if I put a dog on place after an active session, so we're actively working through place, comes, I like that kind of a rep. If you're doing that, and then you ask the dog place, and it's just hanging out in place doing nothing, which a dog is not used to doing. This is the beauty of place, but also it can be challenging. Most dogs will just sit. They're not going to lay down. I'm not worried about that because it's kind of just getting used to this new thing. The more I work with them, the more I will start to pattern down. And if a dog doesn't know down or doesn't want to lay down, then I will dedicate a separate session just to the command down because it's challenging. So instead of expecting the dog to just know that they should lay down, or that can honestly lead to frustration as a handler, I like to dedicate one specific session to the down command, and I like to call it like a jackpot session, where I will only use food to reward for laying down. So very specific. I found that this is helpful. I've also found working on down, I'm kind of going off, but down is so exciting, but it can be very challenging. I like to work on down. We have a van, so I've found it's helpful to work on down when a dog is up a bit higher. So this could be in the back seat of your car, or on place, but yeah. Did I say that? Did I explain that right? I don't know. Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Oh, this is a sweet question, actually. We don't have to be cheesy. I probably will be, but okay. What is your favorite part about each other? Someone asked us about us.
I guess I would say is just how she's very truthful in like things she says, like, and very like open. Like I kind of like relate to this. Is there's back in more of like the early days of her walking dog training, especially with Count, and she would like ask like, oh, I really want to share about this like on my Instagram, and I'm like, that doesn't have to do anything with like dog training. Like, don't share that. Nobody wants to know about like that like in their dog trainer. And she's like, oh yeah, you're probably right. But then like 30 minutes later, I'd check Instagram and see that like she posted about like her infertility struggles, or like other crazy aspects of her life, like previous boyfriends and other like things that like are not dog training related, but I think it just makes her like really relatable and like approachable, and I mean it's kind of made her who she is. And I've also been impressed like how everybody kind of like appreciates that she says that, and I think that's great.
Oh, I love that.
So she doesn't listen to me all the time, and that's what I like. So it's weird.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where because I think I used to get asked that, or I just assumed people wondered, like, does Bobby mind that you share stuff like this? It's just like, once you start reading books by like Brene Brown and like get into that world of personal development and working on yourself, it's really hard to not want to be open and vulnerable. And I think my whole life I've been so closed off and scared to share that side of me. And when you have someone that like loves you so much and that like safety net, it's like a safe zone to show up as yourself and be vulnerable. And I've never felt more connected to people than when I share stuff like that. So, oh, that's so nice. I didn't think that was going to be, I don't know why I thought you were going to say. Okay, my favorite part about you. I think this is kind of a boring answer, but he's the hardest working person I've ever met. And you're also the most like patient with things. He's just I've never met someone that is as hardworking as him. Like when he was not super stressed, but stressed at his job, or any time that he felt sick or didn't want to go into work, he always went into work. He's just the hardest working person ever. So I don't know. I think that's something I really love about you.
Oh, appreciate it.
What a sweet question. Okay. Oh, okay. Your turn.
Yeah, let's see. What is a go-home session like? I'm a new dog trainer.
Ooh, okay. So go-home sessions used to make me very nervous because you don't see a lot of trainers sharing about it. For me, I don't share because I like to be very present with the owners, and some owners don't want to be on camera, and it just makes me feel weird. I get very distracted. So if I'm like taking video, trying to talk to the owner, I guess you could help with that. I just like how it's just me and the owner, honestly. So what the go home session looks like, we start on the walk. So what I've started doing is going outside, and I'll talk to the owner first without the dog with us. And I'll kind of prep the owner for what the session is going to look like. What I used to do, and I think this might be helpful for a new trainer, what I used to do is I would bring the dog out, tell the owner to ignore the dog, and start going for the walk. What I found is that it makes owners very nervous because they haven't seen their dog in 2 weeks. They're so excited. The dog is so excited. And it also stressed me out because I thought, oh my gosh, if the dog like gets excited or reacts, or it's a sign that I didn't do well or something, and that's crazy. So now what I started doing, I'll go out, talk to the owner, tell them what the session is going to look like, and then I will ask, I'm going to let your dog come up and say hi to you. The one thing is I want to ask you, would you like me to correct for jumping up on you? A lot of dogs that I work with, something the owners want is their dog not to jump on people anymore. And we use tools like the prong collar, e-collar, which are very valuable for saying no to that. So I'll ask them that. 9 times out of 10, they say, yes, please correct for that. I had one owner that was like, no, I'd really just like to kind of love on my dog. And we did that, and it was fine. And then we went for the walk. So after that moment, then I tell them what level I got up to, which is always a good little learning moment for them. And we go for the walk. I ask them if they would prefer if I hold the leash. It's little things like this, just communicating with the owner, I feel helps them feel much more at ease, where it used to be very nerve-wracking for them, I think. Just the excitement of seeing their dog and all this stuff. So talking with them through this, I think has been really helpful. Most of the time they say, you hold the leash, do your thing, and just let us know what you're doing, and then I'll hand the leash over to them and just kind of coach them along, how to hold the leash, simple things. I start to have them use the e-collar, and we're just holding them accountable for Heel, the dog. So try to keep it as simple as possible. We go up and down the street and just kind of talk through things. It's also a really great time if they have any questions. Once the dog has like relaxed a bit and they're getting into their groove, we can talk through some stuff. They come back in, we put the dog on place. Oh, I'm pointing to place. We put the dog on place, and then I have the owner sit on the couch and I sit in a chair, and we start talking through things. And I also want to see how the dog reacts to the owner being away from them. That's a challenge, and we work through it. So if the dog pops off of place, which happens, I have the owner either go over and get the leash, or I'll go over and talk through what I'm doing. Then we'll set up the scenario of how to work through the moment when your dog pops off of place at home. I have a go home video. It's actually in my IGTV on Instagram. So it's all in there too, which is helpful, but just in person, we'll do that. Come back, sit down, talk through any questions, anything. Communication is very important to me with owners. Then what I've started doing, and this has been a game changer, is the dog will go with the owner. They'll follow me over in their car over to outside of a dog park, and we do more walking around the dog park to get real life practice for them. I found that that has been a total game changer. I used to have more owners ask me for a follow-up visit after the board and train, and now that's less and less. I love meeting up with owners. I wish more would ask me, but it's also, I think, a sign that they feel much more confident handling stuff on their own when we are working through this stuff around more distractions. So that's the second part of the go home session. We also do some long lane work outside of the dog park, and yeah, and then that's it. I take a picture of them. I go into like family photographer mode, get some pictures, and then that's it. It's usually about 2 hours. That was a lot of talking. Okay.
Well, I guess I'll do the next question. It's like, it's kind of a fun question. What coffee maker do we have, and how do we like our coffee?
You know what I know what brand it is.
Yeah, it's a Breville espresso machine. So we like doing, so it's like, I wake her up with coffee, so I'm the first one to get up. And
people are gonna think you're the best person in the whole world, which he is. Go ahead.
yeah, like I'll make coffee in exchange for you making dinner fairly often.
I like making dinner.
But so like the coffee, so we have the espresso machine, has a little grinder on it, and the key to great coffee is having like fresh roasted like coffee beans that we get from we get from a store like just down the street. Like they roast them like every week, so it's like really nice roasted coffee beans that are like fresh.
Yeah.
So have the coffee machine make that, and then she likes a lot of milk in her coffee. Typically it's like almond milk in the morning that I'll steam up. So I'd say it's probably like a third espresso and then like 2/3 like almond milk. And then I bring that into her while she's just waking up in bed. And then I'll make my coffee like shortly after. And it's espresso with just like a little bit of the leftover almond milk from hers, just to kind of cut the espresso. But
It's my favorite part of the day, by the way. Yeah. Okay. Oh, do I have another one for you?
no. Well,
okay.
there is. Well, that we just did that. That was like the
Wanna do that
espresso. I can. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
So when are you going to start selling merchandise?
So, love this question. Ever since, so we sell ebooks right now, and
Oh, you should tell the story about the first time we released the book.
yeah. So my Go Home workbook, we made it available to sell to people. That was our first ebook, and
But we didn't do it as an ebook at the start.
oh, that's right. No, we did it as a physical copy. So we printed it out and shipped it to people.
But we took orders before we even like figured that out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we were getting we didn't realize it was a really great turnout. It surprised us how many people wanted the Go Home workbook when it launched. So we had to print all of them out, which cost something. We could do it differently now, where we get like shipping labels that are printed out. We didn't have that, so
we were totally unprepared.
Totally unprepared. So like writing all the envelopes, the addresses,
figuring out postage and like just putting it in and making sure we had them all. It was quite the, well, let's just call it a learning experience.
Yeah, it was definitely. So I'm so spoiled by the ebook thing where someone buys it and they just get it right away and we don't really have to do any of the shipping. So I like the idea of the experience of merchandise. But I feel like
we have so many like little projects like planned for like the next 6 months to a year. Like we're not rolling out merchandise. It's just that's just so far removed from I guess our what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, we'd love to do that at some point, but not anytime soon. Okay.
That's fun.
What else?
My dog stays at a friend's house while I'm at work. Will this mess up my dog's training?
So I actually work with some owners who their dogs go to like a boarding place that is, they're not using the tools. So I'm a board and train trainer who uses e-collar and prong collar, and consistency is really important. But what I find, what I hear from them, because we don't board a lot of dogs that we work with, it's a minimal amount of dogs. I find that they're able to go back to structure and consistency when their dog gets back home. That's for like a long weekend or something. For you, it really depends. Like if your dog has been going to your friend's house, I would just pay attention to how your dog is acting. Still hold your dog accountable for stuff on the walk in place. Like structure, you can add it in whenever you want. I think it really depends on how your dog views you and your relationship with your dog. If you have a relationship where your dog is like, I don't care what you say, and stuff like that, it might be more difficult. But if you have a good relationship and your dog understands that you're the leader and he or she has to listen to you, I don't think it should set you back too much. You gotta do what you gotta do, so gotta make it work.
All right. Next question is on excessive whining in the house, on walks, in the morning waiting for us to wake up.
So when I got this question, I had to double check that it wasn't an owner I've worked with, because this sounds like a dog I just recently worked with. That can be really challenging. What I would encourage you to do is structure. I'm actually working with a dog right now, the Dalmatian Milo, who was very whiny on drop-off day in the kennel, coming out of the kennel. And what I found is just introducing the e-collar and using lower levels to interrupt the whining. So his working level, I feel like, is around a 10. And so in the kennel, if he starts whining, I'll double tap at about a 10 or a 12, maybe dial up a little bit. I found that's been really helpful. Really depends on your dog, but overall, more structure is better just to help calm your dog down. So I would say more place duration in the house. Even before a walk, if you need to, I would cut your walk in half and do more duration before if you need to. The e-collar is just super helpful for whining. So if I get a dog in who's really whining, when the dogs used to be in our home, in their kennels, if the dog was whining in the morning, I would go in, put the e-collar on, leave them in the kennel, close the door, walk out, and then use the e-collar to interrupt those whining moments. Super helpful. I know it can be challenging, but...
Oh yeah, that's kind of like one of the things that I think we also found, like when you wake up, don't immediately go to, like don't have the dog be like the first thing.
Oh yes. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, don't get your dog out right away. It's hard when like, if your dog is whining. Mm-hmm. I would go put the e-collar on and start a new routine. And I did this with a Doberman I worked with, Bougie, and super demanding in the morning. So introduce the e-collar, and I talk about that in the e-collar starter guide, or follow on Instagram. I share a lot about that, and then started a new routine. In the morning when I hear you whining, I'm gonna go in, put the e-collar on, and just start interrupting. It doesn't mean like you're going up high and tapping. Sometimes just like lower levels, just be like, hey, without having to go in and tell the dog no, because usually that will work them up. And then start that routine of, just because I'm up doesn't mean that you come out. And just be consistent with it. I'm telling you, it does pay off. It's not easy, but if you do that every single morning, you'll see a difference within a week. Dogs are habitual. Like training dogs that we work with, they get into the routine because we are consistent with just little things like when they're let out in the morning or when they go last potty into the kennel. I just know that this works, so be consistent. E-collar training really helps.
Okay, next question is, how do you overcome mindset block? I know my fear of a reaction is contributing.
Oh, so I totally get this. When I'm working with dogs that are a bit more vocal, it can be challenging even when working with the e-collar or when some walks go really well and then you see a dog and you know your dog gets worked up about this, and it can be challenging. So I would say, how do you overcome mindset? Stacking as many moments as you can that go well and remembering those moments are helpful. Also, using different tools are really empowering. I don't know if you're using the e-collar or prong collar. E-collar is my go-to for reactivity. A great way to see progress with the dog that you're working with your dog for reactivity, is to not nag your dog with the e-collar. What I find with a lot of owners is they get stuck on a number and they're nervous to dial up. Or what I find is that's the piece that you're missing, and then you're just nagging your dog with the same number, and that can lead to a lot of reactions and like you're not moving anywhere. So I would just take note of the levels you're using or how the walk is going. Do you need to switch out tools? Do you need to look for little moments? Just think of it as each walk is a learning opportunity, because it can be very overwhelming, and you can go out on a walk and no matter what I say or anyone else says, you might still be really nervous, and that's okay. But if you look at it, just switch your perspective. This is what I do with training dogs all the time. And I still get nervous sometimes. Like one of the dogs I have right now, Tango, he's deaf and super vocal. Sometimes I get a little nervous when I'm going somewhere because it can be embarrassing. Like I'm a dog trainer. I shouldn't have a dog barking at people when we go out somewhere, but it might happen. So I think looking at it as this is a learning opportunity. Even if my dog reacts, what can I do better the next time? What did I do this time? Was my timing off? What level was I using? Do I need to look for a sign in my dog as soon as they see another dog or whatever the trigger is? I would just be aware of that. Yeah, because I know it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, but like switching your perspective, like learning or growing, like each experience is like you're growing towards being better. I think you also like very often like suggest like personal development side of like things.
Oh, for sure. Like I consider part of my job working on myself. I feel like, well, no, I don't do that more than my job, but it's a big part of my job because I do work with a lot of dogs who are very vocal, intense reactivity, and it can be a lot. It can feel like if you go out on a walk, I used to feel this way. If I'd go out on a walk with a reactive dog and the dog would react, I thought I was a failure as a trainer. But when I switched that to, okay, this didn't go so well, what can I do the next time to be better? What can I do to, what can I look for with the dog? It really helps because this isn't always easy. So switching your perspective is one thing. One thing I'll also say that's helpful, and some people won't, I don't know if they'll like this, but I know it's good to be present on the walk and like not have earbuds in and just like be aware of everything. Reactive dog owners are already aware of everything, hyper aware, which can lead to anxiety. It can lead to not enjoying the walk and being stressed because you're like anticipating everything. Sometimes what I'll do with dogs that are like that is I'll put my earbuds in and listen to something that makes me happy, or like a motivational video. I love Brene Brown, Liz Gilbert, Oprah stuff, all that. And it helps me to relax and still be aware of what's going on. So that might be something you could try if you're feeling like you're anticipating stuff and just really nervous. That helps me sometimes.
Yeah, I've also heard you like talk about more. It's like, yeah, it's like a learning experience, but then not feeling shame for when something goes the wrong way. That's like, I think that's like, you've always kind of like touched on the whole shameful aspects like of thinking that just kind of, it's so not, I don't know how to say it, like it's not toxic, but it's kind of like it corrupts your like mindset a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, especially as a trainer, and I know owners feel this because whenever I talk to owners through the virtual coaching sessions, same stuff over and over and over. It can feel like you're not doing enough, especially when you're comparing your journey and your process to other trainers that you follow, or it can feel awful when you go out on a walk and maybe you've had a couple of really great walks and all of a sudden there's a reaction and you think that you're an awful owner. Really, it's just a moment. Your dog is imperfect just like us, and I know for me as a trainer, it has completely helped me to think of it that way instead of internalizing it and thinking that I'm wrong because the dog did this. Why can't I get the results I'm seeing other people get? All dogs are so different. So yeah, it can feel very shameful, but just know you're not alone. So many of us feel the same way. It's all about what you do after that moment and what you are telling yourself, 'cause it's the only thing we have control over. It's always the most difficult, how we talk to ourselves. But if you can start to just pattern that of, I'm not a bad owner, this was just a moment. What can I learn from this moment to do better the next time? It really does help.
That was good.
Yeah.
We touched on that question.
I like that question. I could talk about that stuff all the time.
So I think we're about to the end of our list. So this
Oh.
is like the last question
Okay.
is how many sessions do you usually do with a board and train a day?
Oh, okay. So I aim for at least 2 because everything that I'm doing with a dog is training, essentially. But if I'm teaching different behaviors, 2 active ones, but that's not including like walks during the day or in our backyard practicing recall to me to go into the kennel. Like that's all training. But actively, if I'm saying, okay, this is my day, I do a morning session. It's usually, I like to take the dogs in the van and I'll work with each one. I don't know how long, I don't time myself. It's more just based on how the dog is doing. But usually like long line work or a heel session outside around more distractions. And then they come into the van, hang out in the kennel for downtime. And then we come back home. They're usually in their kennels for about 3 hours. It's like a nice kennel chunk where we let our dogs out, have lunch, and we can kind of relax. And then an afternoon session, or it could be an outing. So like place work inside, recall off of place, introducing place, a session in the afternoon where I'm doing something with each dog.
Oh yeah. Well, this was fun.
So fun. Did you like it?
I like it. I mean, I think we should almost make this like a weekly thing or whatever.
Okay, I love that.
So if you do have like questions that you want us to like to touch on the next time we do our video, just like leave it down in the comments.
Yeah.
We definitely appreciate your guys' questions because it just,
This is so fun.
yeah.
It's kind of a nice, fun, different thing to do. All right. Cheers with LaCroix. You don't have a drink, do you?
Well, I just have my mug. It's different. And this isn't drinking with dogs. Maybe we'll do a separate like drinking with dogs or something.
Oh yeah, bring that back. Because I did one episode. I was like, oh, this is a new series, Drinking with Dogs. I did one episode. But that's where he's going to help. Like, he's doing all the camera stuff, which is so nice for me because it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, you're just the talent. You just showed up to like the shoot area.
Okay, thanks guys. See you next time.